Jalen Rose, I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
And give the people what they want.
Jalen Rose, I've been in the media for about 23 years, and one thing I know that athletes are always the most vocal right after they won a championship. And Draymond Green didn't even need to win a championship to be one of the most vocal athletes, but he is definitely talking his ish. Here he is with our colleague JJ Redick, Tommy, and let's listen.
In 2019 was when Steph really locked in on the weight room. And so that's where he kind of starts taking that bump and kind of bumping it up a little bit. I think you started to see it then, that growth, and like, oh man, nobody can stop this dude now. And I think that really changed the complexity of our organization, and I'm pretty certain that's why we'll win 3 of the next 4 NBA championships.
Whoa. He was just talking about the weight room, and then he said they're going to win 3 of the next 4 NBA championships. Jalen Rose, they are right now, according to Caesars, the favorites to win the next title. Do you have them favorites to win next year?
I have them favorites to win next year, but I don't believe they'll win 3 more. But that doesn't matter. They already have 4. And for me, I'm just happy, first off, to see the podcast game grow. JJ, retired player, Draymond, current player, doing live pods. It's just a great thing to see that game grow. As you know, for this show, we've done live pods in New York City just like that, including at Barclays. So it was great for me to see them in that form. And the reason why I bring that up first is because that becomes a relaxed form. What has happened so many times in sports media is the people that are talking about sports are in a blazer, are in a shirt, and in a tie. But when you watch the players come to the game, that ain't how they're dressed. And so it's great for me to now see the game start to resemble like a lot of how players look and how players sound. And I echo that by acknowledging under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have said that. Because when you're in that form, as you know, as somebody that helped create this pod along with the Podfather, you don't feel as relaxed in other forums to even say stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What ends up happening is the podcast forum puts you in position to feel like you're relaxed, you're kicking it with the homies. And at a live pod, you gotta say something provocative that we run with the next day. But here's what I'll say about the beauty of the Warriors. Early in Steph's career, him being injured allowed them to pay him lower than he deserved. Clay, later in his career, missing back-to-back seasons, allowed them to be in position of the lottery. Bob Myers, drafting. Steve Kerr, player development. Now all of a sudden you have Jordan Poole, who was in the G League recently. James Wiseman, who was a top-flight pick that they didn't even use as they won the championship. Kuminga, as a player that if they would have lost, we would have said, man, he's good. They didn't even play him at all in the finals. And Moody also as a contributing factor. And so when you have that core group of players, Gary Payton II, who's late 20s, but still young in the NBA, and then you have Wiggins, who probably they're going to extend, that's a nice core of people that I'm naming that aren't Splash Brothers, that aren't Draymond Green. And what does that allow you to do? It allows you to limit their minutes and not overtax them in the regular season. The opposite of what the Lakers are going to need to do with LeBron and AD, so that now they can try to have a higher playoff position. The Warriors are going to be able to ease their veterans into nights, load manage them certain times, play their minutes high, play their minutes low, and get them to the playoffs. And Draymond is right. Once they get to the playoffs, with Steph being stronger the way he is, with Clay coming off his injury a year or so removed, I do believe they're the favorite, but I don't believe, and not because I don't believe in the Warriors. I mean, it's just like 7 championships is just a ton. You know what I'm saying? Like Bill Russell was the only person in those Celtic teams, and Robert Ory can really brag about that. That's just rare air, but it's not diminishing the Warriors by saying they're not going to win the 7th championship. They've already been a terrific squad that's won 4.
So it's hard to sit here and it's still June and talk about who's going to win the championship next year. You know what I mean? But right now, as we sit here, I do have the Warriors favorites. I love what the Clippers adding John Wall, see if they come back healthy, see if the Nets can finally be healthy for a season, see if the Mavs losing Brunson potentially can add something. Grizzlies are building. That's all great. But one thing you mentioned to me, which is the key to this, James Wiseman. He's 7 feet tall. They didn't have him. He was the number 2 pick. He didn't blow the doors off when he was on the court in his rookie season, but that was under strange circumstances. He's been sitting out. He'll come back healthy. I think he'll be a key piece to what they do next year. They're not just the champions. They're the champions adding a piece, not through the draft, the piece that was on the bench throughout the NBA Finals. And again, did they say they're going to win 3 of the next 4? I would say the same thing if I just won the championship. Talk your talk, Draymond Green. Do your thing. Like,
exactly.
Who's about to say they're not going to? I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And again, that's why I started this by talking about the podcast form, because that's unfiltered. Nobody's saying we got to rap. Nobody's saying we got to go to commercial. Nobody's saying we have to talk about this. So therefore, in that form, he's going to be a lot more unfiltered and, frankly, trying to promote his show. You know, they try to promote his show.
Jalen, Draymond Green is excited. He has a microphone, but he's not nearly as excited as the owner of the Clippers, Steve Ballmer, who also has a microphone. Let's listen.
Come on, man. Not only your best player, but one of the preeminent handful of top players in the world. I'm really excited about that. And, you know, Kawhi's in the gym, he's working, and we got our fingers crossed. Everything keeps going on schedule. I think we stay healthy next year. We're going to be having a chance to talk way late into the spring season. How's that?
It's hard to argue. You know, there's always this if they're healthy thing about some of the teams in the NBA. This is certainly one of them. But you've got Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Ty Lue, you had John Wall, Zubac just re-signed. Like, they've got a great roster. If they're healthy, they're going to be a problem. Don't you agree?
The crazy thing is when the Clippers put together PG and Kawhi and the Lakers put together AD and LeBron, we'd have thought they'd play each other at least once in the playoffs so far. And it hasn't happened. I remember being, before the pandemic shut down everything a couple of years ago, we had a Laker-Clipper game that Friday, and I remember us talking about this being something that's going to happen the next few years and how this was the battle of LA. The Lakers ended up winning a championship in the bubble, but the Clippers got shot down by Dame Lillard in the bubble. And to me, they haven't really been able to recover basketball-wise. Obviously, they've dealt with some injury, and Ty Lue, I've talked about how elite he is as a coach. But what they've done on the wing and the players that they've added on the wing, along with getting back Kawhi and PG and signing Zubac and developing Reggie Jackson, a veteran player, into a new role as a productive player, and Maxey, now adding John Wall in the
Terrence
backcourt.
Mann.
Terrence Mann.
Max on a team.
Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann, that's my guy. Out of Florida State. And what ends up happening is, now when I look at the enthusiasm of Ballmer, right, Jacoby, I can't front. I love Steve Ballmer so much because as an owner, he doesn't treat his players like cattle. And I know a lot of people will be like, so what does he mean by that? It isn't like teacher on a high pedestal and students way below. It isn't. He has a childlike enthusiasm and love for Kawhi Leonard. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't just like, oh, hey, you know, I got Kawhi back. You know, I'm paying him $40 million. You know, how many is he going to play? 65 games? It wasn't nothing negative. You see what I'm saying? It was all about a childlike enthusiasm, and he deserves it. Clipper fans deserve it, and I've said it. This is the best team that the Clippers ever had. This is the best team that the Clippers ever have. I played against the Clippers when they had Lloyd Vaught, the OG from Michigan, when they had Darius Miles and my guy Q Rich, both of them. Obviously, Lamar Odom. I played against all of those teams. Corey Maggette. I've covered Lob City. I saw my brother Jamal Crawford win 6th Man of the Year along with Lou Will. I'm telling you, this is the best Clippers team of all time. If they don't get it done with this roster, if they can't do at home